Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Top 5 Records video and another one in the series in which I'm taking a closer look at the full discography of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, awaiting their new album, Wild God. I'm taking a look at their entire discography, and in this video, we have arrived at the number 11 on their list. And no more shall we part. This on vinyl double album was released in 2001. And there is immediately one thing that is new and impressive and different here. Nick Cave is sober in the sense that in 99, 2000, he took a long time to kick off of heroin. Now, I have the idea. I'm not sure if uh, I'm not sure if that's correct, but I have the idea that a lot of his former music has the sense of heroin in there. Although he himself stated that the last 10 years he was much more of a, how do I say this correctly? Controlled user. He would begin the day, inject, and then he would start writing songs, So he found a way to be able to write and to be a user at the same time. Nevertheless, of course, it does damage. I also think that the kicking off of the heroin is very audible on this album. I think you can hear it in his voice. There is an element of well, first of all, let's talk about the quality of his voice, or the texture of his voice. This record is brilliantly produced. I think it might be my favorite production wise on a lot of different levels. The way violins or piano sounds here is so pure, so there's such a beautiful element of the air, the room, the sound of that, the texture, but also very beautiful full on axis. Of course, it's always mostly songs are recorded on axis, but it's a very full, beautiful textured sound. His voice, though I'd like to say, beautifully recorded, it sounds different. It's as if an element of the lower frequencies are missing. And I don't think that is the choice of microphone. His voice sounds different. It's as if the heroin gave him a calm and a confidence that mostly manifested in the lower frequencies of his voice. And that is what we are not hearing here. It reminds me of a story I heard from the ex of a heroin user. I made a documentary about Herman Brood, a Dutch rock and roll star. He actually covered Nick Cave. He really enjoyed Nick Cave. And in the late 70s, the love of his life, his girlfriend, uh, left him because he was on heroin. And she told me about the last moments before she broke up, and she looked him in the eyes. She told him, the heroin is making you distant. It's making you uninterested in me and emotionally less available. Now, I would never call Nick Cave's earlier work emotionally less available because he puts a lot in there. But since The Boatman's Call, the lyrics are getting a lot more personal. He's not creating fictional characters anymore. Um, and on here, it's almost as if these songs, they can be hymns, they can be uh, uh, they can be pleas to a certain degree. They can be cries for help, or cries for hope, or cries for strength. And he sounds so much more fragile, vulnerable, approachable, and that manifests in the high. The low is lacking, and there is more high in the voice. Also, I think losing the addiction, he did not lose part of the reason why he became addicted. I think he sounds more anxious on this album. I think you can hear him pinching his throat more, and as if he's afraid of singing flat. Well, it's it's a well-known fact actually. Nick Cave is open about that in interviews, that he tone and going flat is one of the things he's easy to do, and he's afraid to do that. Now I don't mind that. I like it to a certain degree. I do enjoy it because even if a vocalist is really into a song and you lose a technique, that can become beautifully impersonal. Um, because I'm more interested in emotion and getting the story fully convinced across than a full uh, a fully technically evolved or a full technically controlled record. I think sometimes music can become dull if it's more about the technique than about the emotion. But you can hear that he's afraid of going flat from time to time, and sometimes he does go flat. Sometimes he does go flat, and that's the interesting thing here because a couple of years ago, a Dutch comedian told me that the thing that makes us best is also the thing that makes us weakest. And that's what you hear on this record. The best thing here is a new sounding Nick Cave. But that can also be one of the problems because this record starts up here and it just slightly goes down. And I'll talk you through it. This record opens with, as I said, Sadly by Your Side, which is one of the most gorgeous Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds songs. Brilliantly produced. I love the piano melody there. I love on this record. I'm not a fan of hiring female backing vocalists as a choir to do some extras or during live shows. I really prefer to keep the group as small as possible. Now they did it here and they did it beautifully because the lines they are singing, the melodies are so strong, and the fragile, vulnerable Nick Cave here is just gorgeous to listen to. And after that we go to And No More Shall We Part. That song, in this rendition, in this quality of his voice, is the best recording of that song I have heard. I've heard a lot of live recordings. I've heard live recordings of this song before I've heard the studio version. And this moment in time, Nick Cave singing at this moment in time is just mesmerizingly good. And then you go to Hallelujah. This plea is, ooh, we got a holy trinity here on this album. We got a holy trinity here. Holy Trinity is one of three songs of a 5 out of 5 stars are just put next to each other. You don't find that often. Sometimes there are also three hits, but it's rare. You can find two songs of that quality next to each other. Three, it's rare. The Holy Trinity. The Holy Trinity is here. Beautifully. Love Letter is good. Then on side B, there's a song, God is in the House. I love God is in the House. But God is in the House is a song where what I believe I'm hearing, anxiety, and well, obviously there's a fragility, and I interpret it as anxiety in his voice. That's most notable there. He loses control. He pinches his throat, and I love that. I love it for that performance. But because it's so noticeable there, then the moments after that on the record when he's not so strong, and the rest of the songs, I mean, they're good songs. They're not as brilliant as the first three. So after a while, side C to a certain extent, side D, it becomes a little bit too long for my taste. But nevertheless, a masterpiece, and I'll be playing side A more and more often because there is some of the most impressive beauty out of the Nick Cave and Bad Seeds career on this album. So I'm curious, what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave a comment below and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.